everyone, to another episode of our Jolt and Bolt series, conversations that get you motivated and moving. I am Sarah Dams. I'm VP of the American Advertising Federation of the Greater Lehigh Valley. It's a mouthful. And I'm really excited for our chat today. It's with Mike Mangos. He is the co-founder of Tammin. And why don't we just get started? It's going to be really quick. Okay, first question, Mike, and then I'll have you introduce yourself. We're asking everybody this because we're hoping that people are watching this in the morning or they need some motivation. So we're wondering, Mike, how do you take your coffee? Do you drink coffee? And if you do,
Yes.
how do you take it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did not start drinking coffee really until a few years ago. And I kind of got hooked. It was a very cold winter, and we had an office in Old City, Philadelphia that didn't have good heat. We had these huge windows, like floor to ceiling windows. We were an old factory space. And it just got too cold, and I would be like layered up, and I started just downing coffee just to stay warm at work. And then I started to grow this love for the nectar of the gods. And now I have to have it every morning. But I drink it richly roasted and just enough half and half to give it the color of yellow ochre. So,
Oh, very nice.
yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. And you guys probably drink that La Colombe down there in Philly, right?
We do. That's
Uh,
that's my weakness.
that's amazing. So awesome. So tell us about Tammin and what you guys
Sure.
do.
Yeah, that sounds great. So at Taman, we started out doing IT and some development work, and we've transitioned to being primarily an agency that designs and develops rich web experiences that are both beautiful, highly performant, and are digitally accessible. So that's kind of become our niche, that building these really interesting, accessible experiences without really making compromises in design or functionality. So I'm really excited that we're doing that. In addition to that, we've gotten pretty good at it. So we also train, consult, and support the success of other design and dev teams in their pursuit of inclusive digital design and digital accessibility.
It's awesome. It's so amazing because, I mean, I'll let you elaborate more, but the audience that you're talking to today, we're advertising professionals. We work in agencies. We work in in-house departments. We're involved in the marketing departments. We also have a pretty good student following as well, college students,
Sure.
hopefully some high schoolers, but maybe you can explain a little bit how digital accessibility is tied to advertising because it's
Yep.
pretty important.
Yeah, it's actually become a big thing. I mean, so it's not new. It's something that we're supposed to have been doing for a very long time. And I think as a profession, there have been some very, very small niches that have decided to, make sure that their advertising is accessible. But it really, it kind of felt like the purview of some very large corporations with deep pockets. And I think that's because um, those digital accessibility can be tricky to figure out and do. And especially people that are starting from a visual starting point, it can be a little daunting to jump into these other things that are not visual if that was your background and training. So it's always historically been thought of as something that was kind of expensive and time consuming. And it can be early on. But once somebody gets over that hump as a designer or a developer or even a business person like myself, I think it can become sort of not very much more expensive at all in terms of time or money in producing these things. And it's important to advertising because there are a lot of people with disabilities that we don't think of, right?
Yeah.
And so some people, if you've heard even a talk or two about this in the past, you know there are a lot of Americans with disabilities that we don't think of. Like, Sarah, I see you're wearing glasses, but you probably don't think of yourself as disabled, right? Because you have an assistive device, okay? Right. You have an assistive
Yeah.
device helping you through your day visually, right?
Mhm.
And all of us age, and although we've done some great had some great medical advances in prolonging life, we haven't really stopped or stemmed the aging process, and we're all going to need advertising and or communications to us And advertising can encompass more than just selling me something, right?
Yeah,
So a
absolutely.
lot of communications that I'm going to need to receive over time as I get older and my parents age and all of us, right? Like we're all going to benefit from this. And even some of us that become temporarily or situationally disabled, it matters, right?
Yes.
So it's a big piece of the puzzle that we just as an industry haven't given enough attention to
Yeah.
over the last 30 years. But this is the 30th anniversary of the ADA, which gives
Yeah.
equal rights, both in public accommodation, which includes advertising, to people with disabilities. And so it's a really interesting time. And we're seeing a big sea change in advertising going this direction. So for all of the members here, like this is a great time to be getting on this bandwagon because this is going to become a new norm.
Yes.
you know?
Yes, it's very true, and like you said, it can be it's kind of switching your way of thinking. I know I'm a designer,
Yeah.
so switching how I design as far as the steps that you take to prep your files or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's just kind of a mind switch. So what can we do as advertisers, like how can we kind of help besides hiring Tammin to come up and give us a training, which would be
Sure.
amazing. Maybe when we all can get back together, we could do like an in-person something. I don't know, but what can we do? Should we just like research or like start with one like
Yeah, no,
idea?
that's great. So I have when I talk about this publicly, usually I start with this idea of in fact we just came to this recently, right? This idea that there needs to be sort of an aha moment that as a professional in this industry, as a professional communicator or as a professional designer or professional developer, I have been missing a piece of this puzzle. So there's sort of this like awareness piece,
Yeah,
like this eureka moment. So if you feel like accessibility is a thing that you're adding on top of your existing design practices, you already don't you haven't hit that big eureka moment yet. Okay, if it's like a checkbox at the bottom of a
right.
checklist, okay. So I would encourage everybody as like a first step, like this needs to be as ingrained as maybe like responsive design has become for
Yeah,
most people in the digital design space, right? Like you
yeah,
don't you don't design a desktop site and then separately go design and build a mobile site anymore. It's one site, you build them together, and oftentimes you'll start mobile first,
yeah,
right? That's become sort of the new norm. This will become the new norm. If you don't feel like it is for you yet, pursue just the idea that like what am I missing here, right? And there's
yeah,
lots of good resources. If you just Google digital accessibility or inclusive design, that'll kind of start the juices flowing. But I think one of the things that I tell a lot of designers that are new to this, or even QA testers, people like kind of in this business, is there's like a really easy tip to take away,
yeah.
right? Which is you can ask yourself three questions in advertising and communications. You're probably used to asking yourself, how does this look?
Hmm.
Right? And that's kind of visually, what do I see? How are things laid out? Right? How does it look to me? But some people can't see it, right? They're going to have to hear it. And when they listen to that digital communication, you have to ask yourself as an experienced designer, what's the listening experience? What's the auditory experience here? And then somebody who maybe can see it just fine but can't use a mouse, they can't just necessarily go click on the thing they want right away. They're going to have to move through your communication or your website or your app in a way that maybe you don't expect because of the assistive technologies that they're using. So how does it feel to them? We talk about that as like what's the tactile or feeling experience associated with it, that physical experience. So you can ask yourself these three questions: how does it look, how does it sound, and how does it feel? You're probably used to doing the first one, but if you tackle the other two at the same time, it really opens up the mind. And I feel like that for some people is that eureka moment, you
Yes,
know.
yes, I love it. Mike, thank you. Great chat. It's a quick chat. I do
Yeah.
have one last question before we go.
Yes.
Um, so what is motivating you right now? Things are things have been a little different the past couple months, and
Yeah.
we're looking for some motivation. What's keeping you motivated? You said you were up early today, working
Yeah.
to get ahead of a couple things. So what's keeping you motivated?
Yeah. I mean, one, we've been very busy, and as co-founder and co-owner of my company, I mean, I don't really get to just give it to somebody else to do, even though you think that's what owners can do. Um,
Yeah.
but I think what's keeping me motivated right now is, we've taken on this new mantra a couple years ago of access to information as a human right, and I'm starting to adopt this new mantra to go with it, which is access to employment is a human right as well. And
Oh,
so when I think about these two concepts and like what I can do to pursue them, right, it gives me a lot of motivation to go create some good in the world. And I need to make money doing it, but at the same time, that sort of marriage of what I get to do professionally and what I really care about ideologically gets me up in the morning, gets me excited to get to work. So
great. That's awesome. So it's not like the piece of cake that's waiting in your fridge at night. It's the real thing.
no,
It's the real guy.
no, it's the real thing. I love what I do.
You
I
really
love
love
what I
doing
do.
that. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so I'm going to try something. How about a virtual high five?
Nice.
Boom. Thank you, Mike. Thanks everybody who tuned in to watch this. So
Thanks,
take
Sarah.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye.